Well, hello there, friends, and if you're new here, welcome. So today I'm going to do a little bit more flight simulator, and what I'm going to do is try it without using my yoke and rudder pedals. I want to see how difficult it is for people to play this game without having, if they just have their Oculus and no controllers. I'm going to try it with both my Oculus controllers, and then I'll also try using an Xbox controller just so we can see the differences, see if it's easier either way, and just to see how hard this would be to play without the controllers, without, just using your Oculus controllers. So I went ahead and set up a flight here. It's just a one runway. It's nothing too fancy. We're going to go ahead and go fly. All right, so let me go ahead and close that out. Awesome, it puts me right in front of fuel tank here. I got some fuel. However, I don't think I have the ability to do pushback. So, yeah, I don't have pushback set up on my controller. I have it on my other controllers, on my flight simulator, flight sticks, but I don't have pushback set up on here. So I might just end up having to fly through there or try to figure out how to do pushback in here. So I'll go ahead and get this started. One of the things I did notice when I was trying this earlier is my brakes. You're supposed to be able to squeeze your trigger, which your trigger is where your middle finger is at, around your where your hand piece is at. That's your squeeze button. That is supposed to do your brakes. And I did notice that when I tried that, my brakes were not working. My left brake would work, but my right brake wouldn't work. So I ended up setting up both brakes on my left, and that seemed to have resolved the issue earlier. So I have tested this out a little bit, but yeah, just to see how easy it would be. Let's see, you can bring up the checklist here. If you want to go through your checklist, you got a pre-flight checklist and all that stuff. Starting your engine, you can bring this up here. Tells you where to bring your throttle. You just hold your trigger button in here where your pointer finger is at. You can move your throttle and move your mixture and all that stuff. And you just press your trigger button to push stuff when you're holding the Oculus controllers. So we got that open. Quarter. Let's see, we got 0. And that's close enough to a quarter. Mixture, we got it on cutoff. Battery switch. And just go through all the different stuff here. Turn everything on. And you can actually click in here. If you don't know where it's at, you can press that and it'll light up. It'll show you where it's at. So if you're going through here. So if you want to go through doing the checklist. So as you can see, using the controllers is not easy. There we go. Alright, so now we got the engine started. As you can see, that's not the easiest thing to do. So your right controller, your thumbstick controls your rudders. Your left controller, your yoke, forward, backwards, up, down, left, right. Okay. This is your emergency brake and a 172. So again, there's the checklist. It'll show you where everything's at. So yeah, so one of the hardest things to do is use the rudders on the ground with these controllers. And I have noticed, as you can see, when I press my trigger on my right, my line comes on. When I press my trigger on the left, my line comes on. One controller works at a time. I've noticed in here. So when you're on the ground and you're trying to do stuff here and do stuff here with your right hand and your left hand at the same time, you end up stopping and starting different things. So quite often on the ground, when I'm trying to taxi to the runway, I'll end up flying off into the grass or something like that. So, all right. So again, I don't have pushback. I don't think there is any options for pushback in here. Let's see, there's nothing in there. So I guess I'm just gonna give it a little throttle and oh, turn my brake off, and drive through the gas pump. See if I can go through it, or if it's going to actually... Okay, it doesn't. Okay. So as you can see, trying to do the throttle and use your rudders at the same time is a little difficult. But we'll get out here. And we're just going to take off. You got your air traffic control up here if you want to talk to them. I'm not going to bother with that today. I'm just going to take off. We're just testing out the controllers, so I'm not trying to make this all fancy, realistic. And I do have clear weather today, so shouldn't have any wind or anything blowing me around. So this is basically the easiest. I'm trying to make it the easiest I can. Alright, so where I'm going to go ahead and take off. Again, I had to press my trigger in order to get this one to work. I got my flaps down there. A little bit of flap. And you can grab your rudder or your yoke and fly with that. I don't know that you can press your rudders, but again, if you're trying to use your rudders and you grab your yoke, it'll disable your rudders. So it's not very friendly as far as that goes. There we go. We got to take off. I'm doing all of this without a controller. I'm just using my Oculus controllers here.
Don't sink, don't sink, don't sink,
right.
Don't sink.
I won't sink. Let me go up. And back. And we'll fly out here a little bit. Up.
Don't sink, don't sink, don't sink.
And what I'll do is I'll just fly over here and I'll try to land with my controllers. And once you get up in the air, it's not too bad. Like I said, you can grab this and you can do that, but as you know, when you watch me try to do my key, you can see how difficult it was using the pointers to do things. So it's kind of the same thing when you're on your... It's not like you can use both sides. So it's easier to just use your joysticks if you're using just your Oculus controllers. Out a little ways, turn in and we'll land. Turn off the menu up there. That's just the B button to shut off the menu. Of flaps, bring it around. There's the runway, there it is. See if I can land this very easily without a yoke or a flight stick. Again, my brakes, I don't have a left and right brake, so I have them both set to just my left trigger. I don't know why. I mean, it was set up to push on the right side. It just never worked, so I don't know if that's a glitch in the game. Well, I landed. Wasn't very pretty, but I made it on the ground. Again, steering on the ground is not very easy sometimes. Oh. That's just... once in a while I'll get that internet connection loss. Now if you ever get that, then you gotta, and you say to go offline, well then that kind of messes up your weather and stuff like that. Best to just say okay and let it reconnect. It'll reconnect eventually. Come over here. Yeah, see, successfully connected again, so yep. It's best to just let that reconnect on its own. Alright, so there we go. Now I'm going to do a reset, and I will try my Xbox controller. Alright, so here we are back in the 172. This time I have my Xbox controller plugged in, and I'm going to show you the difference in using an Xbox controller versus using the controllers on your Quest. So you do have a dot, and sometimes it disappears, quite often it disappears, but you have a dot on where you look. And as you can see, as I look around, I have the ability to interact with things, and you interact by pressing your A button. So you can press buttons and do stuff like that. One of the things I like to do, if I can get my dot here to work, there we go, is I like to hide my yoke. And I'll hide that one. Now you can see my dot. There's my dot right there. Of course, if I go hover over a button, it's going to go away. Yep, so your flaps is your D-pad, and it's up-down for your flaps. As far as your brakes go, it's also your D-pad. It is left for your emergency brake. I have not figured out how to do the brake in-game as far as left and right brake. Your rudders are your trigger buttons, left and right, and these are all the defaults. You can actually go in and change things. And then your yoke is your left joystick. I have my yoke turned off, else you'd see it moving. Here, I'll turn it on. So there you go. Now you can see it moving up, down, left, right. Okay, I'll have that hidden again. And now I'm going to go ahead and just start the aircraft. And when I click on my key, I'm going to interact with it, and I can actually press my right. There we go. I got my right joystick to the right, and that's starting the aircraft. And then I press B to exit out. For your throttle, it's A and B, so you got A that'll press your throttle in, B pulls your throttle out. It's easiest to do that when you're looking ahead. If you're looking down and you press A, it's going to try to press some buttons. So the easiest way to use that is just to look ahead. Again, I don't have a pushback on this setup, so I am just going to drive right through here. I'm not quite sure how to do pushback in here without having a button or something like that. So if you know how to do that, let me know down in the comments. So I'm just going to go ahead and drive through here. Let me turn my parking brake off. an airplane coming in. Yeah, taxiway incursion. Yep, I know. That's okay. Hold short, make sure there's no airlines coming in here. Technically, I would call in and get clearance. I'm just going to look left and right. No airlines coming in. Is that airplane off the runway? Looks like it is. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my parking brake and take off. It's hard to do this without actual brakes, using my parking brake. But, all right. Full throttle. Gain access from ATC. Well, I'm not going to do that this round. There we go. Gonna take off. Weather today, so no wind, easy flight. And all I'm going to do is just go out here, go around and then land, just to see how easy it is using this controller. And again, I've only used this for just a few minutes today, maybe 30 minutes in total. I usually use my flight yoke and throttle and rudder pedals and everything else, but not everybody has that, so I wanted to see how hard it was to make a video for you guys to see if you could do this. You could play Flight Simulator without going out and purchasing a setup. And yeah, you can. Is it as easy? No. But it can be done, and it's still fun to fly around and look around. You can go tour different areas. All right, let's see how far I am away from there. Turn around, start. On my landing. Make sure I don't have an airplane coming in to hit me during my landing. I could have gone out a little bit farther, but that's all right. I should be able to bring this in.
500.
Let's have more flaps, see if I can slow me down a little bit. Kind of turned in a little too fast there, but that's all right. I should do okay. Just have to land a little long on the runway here. Again, I don't have brakes, so I have to use my parking brake. Yeah, that wasn't too terrible. Alright, well there you go. I was able to take off and land using my Xbox controller. I also showed you that it can be done with the Oculus controllers, although it's not quite as easy. I would say if you have an Xbox controller, I would recommend using that as opposed to the Oculus controllers. But either way, you can fly. If you don't have an Xbox controller, you can fly with just the Oculus controllers. I would recommend, though, I mean, if you're going to go out and spend the money on getting an Xbox controller, you might look at it just getting a flight stick that's got the rudder and all that. But it's totally up to you, whatever feels comfortable for you. A flight stick and an Xbox controller are probably around the same cost. So I would recommend make sure you get a flight stick that has rudders built into it, the twist on it. Rudders are extremely important with flight simulators, so unless you're just flying in the air and you're just flying around and you don't really need to taxi or do anything like that on the ground, you might be able to get away with no rudders, but rudders are extremely important on the flight simulator. So or if you want to go my route, I have a flight yoke and throttle quadrant and rudders and all that good stuff, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable and a lot more realistic feeling. So, well, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.